Lieutenant Ty Wheeler with the Johnston-Grimes Fire Department. In this session, we're going to be talking about hose line advancements. So, last session we talked about our zero impact time from rig to door. In this session, we're going to talk about hose line advancement inside the structure. A few things to keep in mind. When we're going through these techniques, we're thinking about worst case scenario, okay? We can't see our feet, it's hot overhead. Those are the times you need to get low in these positions that we're going to be talking about. As a general rule, if you're about 4 feet or lower and you're retracting from heat, usually that means at the ceiling it's about 1200 degrees. So we need to get to our knees so we can effectively make a push inside without damaging ourselves. Other key factors to consider. Number one, as the line goes, so goes the fire. Meaning, when the line is moving, we're making progress and we're capturing square footage inside. If the line stops moving, the fire is either overpowering ourselves, or we need another line to make that final push, or we're hung up on the line somewhere outside. Okay, so as the line goes, so goes the fire. Number two, if you put the fire out, everything else gets better. Okay, so if we are able to make that push for final extinguishment, everybody else on the fire ground is safer. And then finally, number three is you can dry stuff out, but you can't unburn it. We have to put water downrange so we can effectively make a positive impact on the environment. Water extinguishment, proper water application, downrange is going to be very effective and very critical when we're making a push inside. So first we're going to talk about positioning on the line and positioning of our people. Okay, nozzleman is going to be the one operating and putting the water downstream. Okay, his responsibility is from the nozzle to about 25 to 30 feet back. Okay, one person can manage that much line by themselves. The backup person has that 25 to 30 feet back to the front door. Okay, they're going to be responsible for pinch points, helping move line to get to the seat of the fire. The backup person has to be the hardest worker on the fire ground. Okay, the engineer has from the front door all the way back to the truck. Their responsibility is to make sure there's no kinks in the actual front yard, in addition to helping push hose inside the front door as well. The first position we're going to talk about is called the Camilla, or the high knee. Okay, in this situation that we have firefighter pick in here, this is going to help us absorb our nozzle reaction. Okay, Newton's law says for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. So water's coming out, that means there's going to be pressure applied back in. So we're going to be in a position that allows us to absorb this nozzle reaction. For our 7/8 smoothbore, 60 pounds of nozzle reaction. For our fog nozzles, they're 54 pounds of nozzle reaction. Okay, so as we see here with firefighter pick, he's in a good Camilla high knee position. His fingertips can reach the tip of the smoothbore. You see that his bail is turned at a 90-degree angle. It's turned at a 90-degree angle. Number one, it helps ease the up and down movement to reduce pinching here. But also, if he starts losing this line and he starts getting pushed back in his stance, his body will shut this line off, so we have that automatic shut off and that safety there. You see that his elbow is on the inside of his knee. He's in a nice low position. His center of gravity is low to the ground. And then if you think about the nozzle reaction coming into the line, the 60 pounds comes into the line, it hits his knee and is grounded into the ground. The other portion of this weight is in the hose and then transferred through his core to this opposite leg. So we're taking 60 pounds into the body and distributing it between his front leg, his back leg, and then the hose. Okay? And then to operate this, he's gonna slowly open that nozzle, not jerking it. So slowly open. And then his hand comes off the bail and we slide down, slide this one down. Okay? And so we're in a good, nice, compact position that we're absorbing that nozzle reaction. Shut down. So ideally what we want is we want hand right behind the coupling, the second hand behind that, and our elbow on the inside of our knees. The next position we have is called the clamp. Okay? In the clamp, a little bit different. The hose is going beneath the ground in the shin of the nozzle firefighter. So the firefighter should be resting his pressure of the shin on the actual hose. That nozzle reaction comes in, is just being pinned right to the ground. Our body takes no additional force because we're grounding the hose. Okay? to start at the tip, we want the tip of the nozzle above our helmet so our helmet doesn't get hit off by a water stream. We still want to keep the bail at a 90 degrees, okay? You can see his first hand is about midway between the nozzle and the ground. That's going to help us prevent that kink at that point, okay? And then his top hand is right behind the coupling. What I like to say is that this bottom hand has a death grip on that nozzle because we don't want it to kink. We want to keep a good firm grip on it, okay? Still have a bail at 90. We still have our front hand right behind that coupling. So when we turn this on, nice slow turn on, and then we're going to move that hand back. All right, so now we're talking about moving in these positions, okay? Like we said, one firefighter has this first 25 to 35 feet, so we're gonna use our mechanical advantage of creating levers with the hose in order for us to move, okay? So, in addition to that, we always want 3 points of contact with the ground because we're more stable that way. So what's gonna happen in the high knee or the Camilla, like we have here, the first thing is that the hose is going to come across the lap of the nozzleman, okay? Their left hand is going to drop to the ground. They're going to shoot this hip forward. What that does is that puts this leg out in front of them. We're doing this because this is our feeler. We want to make sure that we have stable ground ahead of us. We're not falling downstairs or falling in holes. So we have to have one leg out in front of us so we can feel the ground with. You can see his weight is back. If his leg drops, he can sit back and still be relatively safe. Our pressure and our weight is not forward on the line. As he turns and puts his hip forward, you see this big curve in the line here. This is our leverage point, okay? If we're able to create a nice tight curve and push with our hip, that's our lever to pull the hose with us. Go ahead and make 2 moves. Okay, so you can see how we're dragging that hose with him because our point, our apex here is our leverage moving forward. All right, so now we're in the clamp. In the clamp, same thing. We still want to create leverage, right? So we're going to create a bigger bend in our hose to pull against. So the first thing that needs to happen is the nozzle needs to come to our chest. We can either grip it with our hand or we can grip it with our elbow and you can grab your pack strap, whatever you prefer, okay? I like to do this because you have positive control of that hose at all times. Because we're in the right knee is down, our right hand's gonna go down now. And now we're gonna lean back and we're gonna pull with our big muscles of our legs and our butt to move this hose, creating our big leverage point. Now we're getting into turns and how do we make positive turns with our positioning here. So he's in the right-sided Camilla or high knee. We always want to turn with whatever hand is down, okay? Making that pivot point with our down hand allows us to pivot and make an easier turn. We never want to pivot on our opposite side than our down hand or our down knee. So if you're thinking about this in your head, whatever knee is on the ground, that's the side we want to turn with. Okay, so right-sided, high knee Camilla, we want to make, or our preference is to make a left-handed turn. Okay, so nothing changes, just like movement. He's going to drop the nozzle across his waist. He's going to drop his hand, and now he's going to make a left-handed turn. Okay, so now we talked about making a left-hand turn in the right-hand Camilla. That's our preference, but situations will dictate, the building dictates which way we got to turn. So in this scenario, we're going to take a right-hand turn with a right-sided Camilla. So what we're first going to do, hand slides back to our hip pocket, okay? We're going to pull hose and put it over our knee. You see how he pulled hose with him, go back? He didn't just put the hose around, he drug hose with him and then placed it, and then he's going to drop to his knee. Then we kick up our opposite leg, this puts us in the clamp. Now we can make this turn right. So now we're moving into the clamp. Like we said earlier, whatever knee is down, whatever whatever hand we pivot on is the side we prefer to turn because it's easier. There's no transition in that. So right-handed clamp, making a right-handed turn. Go ahead. Perfect. So now we have to make the left-handed turn. Two different ways to do this. The first one is the transition to the Camilla. This can be very positive when we have to navigate unstable terrain. So what we're going to do is we're in the right-sided clamp. We're going to slide our hand down by our knee. We're going to kick the hose out, and then we're going to drop our knees down to the ground. Then our right leg comes up. Now we're in the Camilla. Now we make that left-handed turn like normal. Drop the hands, and then we turn. All right, the second option for in the right-sided clamp to go make our left-handed turn is that we can now just switch from right-sided clamp to a left-sided clamp. So if you come back around here, what's gonna happen is first the nozzleman's gonna kick his leg out, okay? When he drops his opposite leg here, his toe's gonna go on the other side, so the knee and the toe are on the opposite sides of the hose. After that, this right leg just kicks up, and now we're in the left-sided clamp. Now we can pin the nozzle with our right hand, we drop our left hand to the ground, and we make this left-handed turn. So now we're going to talk about turning inside actual rooms and hallways with real corners. Okay. The first thing to realize is that whenever we're transitioning, we want to transition from behind cover. If fire's coming down this hallway opposite of us, we don't want to get to the corner, have that thermal insult, and then try to turn. We want to turn from behind cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan our turn while we're still covered from the actual direct line of sight. Also, when we do this, we want to make a deep dive into the corner. We don't want to be tight on the corner because if we turn tight here, that creates a significant pinch point. So what we're going to do in this scenario is firefighter pick is going to be in the right-sided clamp, and he's going to dive deep into this corner and then make a turn. Go ahead. So now we're going to do a high knee Camilla, turning left inside an actual hallway or a room. So what he's going to do again, he's going to dive deep into this corner and take a left-handed turn. Okay. He goes deep in this corner. He's still in the right-sided clamp or high knee, right, or Camilla. And if he needs to, he can put water downrange because he's already in the position to do so. If he wants to continue to move, then we can just drop that hand again, and he can continue to move to his next target. Every once in a while, there may be a need to actually flow while we're actually moving, okay? This could be a situation if we have a hallway similar to this, and we have a deep-seated fire back in this back bedroom or room, and we can't get water directly onto the seat of the fire and reduce some of that flame over or rollover, we may have to flow and move to make that corner, right? Deep-seated fires with rollover coming out may be so intense that water out here ain't going to do anything on the inside, okay? So we may find ourselves in a situation that we have to flow while we're moving. So if we call for the push, that means I'm flowing and moving down my hallway to make my environment better out here so I can get the attack angle for this corner, so then I can make my final attack in the fire room or close to the fire room by pushing that heat and smoke away from it. Okay, so flowing and moving, is a little bit different. This may be something that you don't practice right away. Maybe this is something that you graduate to, okay? This isn't the most easy technique, but there is situations that you will have to do it. So once you feel comfortable with the positioning and moving, then we can graduate to flowing and moving as you feel is necessary, okay? Two different ways of flow and move, the duck walk and then the scoot. The duck walk, what we're going to do is we're going to stay nice and compact, but we're going to drop the knees down because that makes us more stable, okay? So what I like to say is that we're loosen the wrists, we're tighten the body, loosen the hips, okay? So when I move, I'm going to do this without water first. I'm going to drop my knees, my hose is pinned with my upper body. This hose is kind of in line with my chest. So the nozzle reaction is not pushing me off to the side, it's pushing me straight down. Then I'm going to bring my leg up. You see my knee and heels are close to each other, okay? We don't want to get so far out now I have to lean into it. Nice and compact, drop, up, drop, up. We're letting the leverage of our legs drop us forward, okay? So while we're flowing and moving, flow and move, two different techniques. The first video is the duck walk, okay? The second video is the scoop. So this one I'm not dropping any knees, I'm just scooting my leg along so I remain in a good position. The second option is going to be the scoop, okay? In this situation, right-handed, my right side is always going to stay up, and then I'm going to scoot my body forward, okay? So here, I'm taking a step, and I'm leaning. This leg's just coming along for the ride, and I'm scooting. So now we're going to talk about water mapping and water application, okay? So when we have a superheated environment with heavy smoke overhead, we need to be able to apply water. Even if there's not fire overhead, we still have a very superheated environment, okay? We need to be able to open the nozzle. The old fact of not opening nozzle on smoke is null and void now with the high combustibles and products of incombustion that we have nowadays, okay? So one thing that we can do very quickly, even at the front door, is we can do two things. Number one, we can open a nozzle and hit straight up at the ceiling and see what happens. If we have water falling on us, we know that that's less than 212 degrees because there's no steam conversion. If we open the nozzle high for a brief second and close it and there's steam, we know that that's a superheated environment. We need to consider if we need to apply water before we make entry or not, okay? The next thing that we can do, and we'll simulate here with the ceiling, is water mapping. So when we shoot water at the ceiling, what you'll notice is it creates a big sprinkler effect. And what it's going to do is going to hit off that ceiling and it's going to shoot downrange, but it's also going to start covering the sidewalls, which takes some heat out of the environment. When we think about fire behavior and when a fire grows and goes through the growth phases, we know that when through convection, conduction, and radiation, that other materials in a room start absorbing that heat and then they start giving off heat as well. So by us just shooting high on a ceiling and cooling the walls, we're taking reflective heat out of the environment, okay? And then we're also getting some water downrange, so we're impacting this condition before we impact the conditions downrange. Make things above us better so we can move forward. So Pick's going to demonstrate water mapping. Next, we're going to talk about application of water downrange. What our fire stream is doing to make things better for us. Like we just showed in the water mapping, we want that effect to happen. But we're going to start close to us because we want to affect the environment close, and then we're going to move downrange. A lot of the books talk about the O, T, Z, and N type of movements. I don't really care what you do as long as you're applying water and painting the walls appropriately so we're coating the surfaces with water, Okay, Pick's gonna demonstrate that as he's gonna start close, do water mapping, paint the walls as close to him, and then as we make progress here and make the environment above us better, he's gonna push his fire stream down range, so now we can start impacting the environment down further where we're gonna go, right? We always want to use the stream reach to benefit us in the future. We never wanna be super close to the fires because that's where we get into it. So what we were doing there is one thing we can talk about is the floor, okay? So a few things didn't happen with our floors and carpet in our superheated environments. When they become hot, they get really sticky. So we're doing two things. Number one, we're pushing the debris out of the way. Maybe kids' toys, clothes, things like that are just spread all over the house. If we use our stream, we can push that stuff out of the way. Secondly, with the carpet being superheated and gets really sticky, there's actually a line of duty death in Homewood, Illinois, that a guy got stuck to a floor because the carpet was really sticky. So we're cooling that floor, that surface, to reduce its stickiness so we don't get caught up in that situation either. So as a backup person, we need to make sure that we're in proper position so we don't get stuck in a bad position. So whenever possible, we want to be on the outside of corners, okay? I'm in a tripod position here because that's the best position we can be in. I can move freely on this line by putting myself in a tripod position, okay? Like I said, this backup person has to bounce between that 25-foot mark and the front door. So it could be a pretty long distance into the actual building. So they got to be able to be maneuverable and be able to move effectively. We find ourselves in the outside of the corners. We want to underhand grip corners. As you can see here, I have a little bit of slack in the line, okay? So when the nozzleman starts to move and it gets tight, I can push a little bit more hose towards him, okay? The other thing, I don't want to be overhand grip. If for whatever reason he takes off and my hand gets slammed against a wall, now my fingers are stuck against a wall and I can't pull them out. Underhand grip, if the hose gets pulled, it just slips out of my hand, I can go and retrieve it. Also, we don't want to be on the inside. If we're on the inside and heat advances, now I get stuck between the hose and the actual wall. It's a bad spot to be in, okay? So here, I can move effectively on the line in a tripod position, grab hose, and then get back to my corner and push more hose if need be. So the final thing we need to talk about is communication while we're on the line. The nozzleman, the backup, and the engineer all need to have common communication verbiage so we know what everybody is saying on the fire ground, okay? So if our nozzleman makes a left-hand or right-hand turn, I need to know, because as a backup person, I can help facilitate that movement by pushing hose in a certain direction that helps turn that nozzle for the actual nozzleman, okay? So left and right is pretty important. If we're moving, the nozzleman needs to yell moving, because that allows me to get hose and starts pushing hose as he's moving. If I don't know you're moving and the hose gets ripped out of my hands, I can't be effective for you. So making sure we know which way we're going, left or right, and if we're moving or not, okay? If we're calling for a push, that means the nozzleman is flowing and moving, meaning he is gonna continuously flow while he's making the push inside. We may do that when we have a situation where we have a rollover coming out of a bedroom or the room of origin. If it's rolling over and there's a large fuel package inside and we can't get access with our fire stream, then we need to make sure that we can get to that corner, turn, get the line of sight so we can then put water on the fuel flame interface. Not doing so and just battling gases that are lit off overhead isn't going to let us make that push for final extinguishment. So if we call for a push, we're going to flow and move as a nozzle, and we're going to flow and try to make that turn so we can get a line of sight into the actual room that's flowing, okay? May not happen all the time, but there are situations where you may run into that you will have rollover that will not go away. In those situations, a flow and move will make the fire push back into that room of origin, and then we can gain leverage and gain a position so we can make final extinguishment. So that's what a push is. Also, nozzleman needs to know if we're going up or down. If me as a backup person is pushing hose and I just feel the hose go down, that's super important for me to know. Did he just fall through a floor, or are we going downstairs? If we're going downstairs, then we need to make sure that we have enough hose to reach 10 to 20 feet, because that's how long stairs usually are in residential for a 10-foot ceiling, okay? So I need to make sure I have enough hose to make that push all the way down the stairs. We never want to get stuck on the stairs. Going upstairs, I also want to know if we're going to go upstairs. That's going to affect how much hose I need to get upstairs and move around that second floor, okay? Finally, if we're backing out, that means we're moving and taking the hose with us out of the building. If we are bailing, that means we are ditching the nozzle and we are getting out because conditions have drastically worsened. So, calling for a bail versus a backup is determining if you're bringing the nozzle with you or if you're leaving the nozzle inside. So we briefly talked about the engineer's responsibilities and we were talking about the positional responsibilities. But we want to dive a little bit deeper into what their job duties really are and how we prioritize that stuff. Number one, we need to make sure that we have a positive water supply and that we also get the line off the truck so we can get the crews inside. Okay, so establishing our water supply is super critical. Apart from that, pulling a second line for another arriving crew or for a backup line is also super important. Anytime we pull a backup line or a second line, it should always be the same length or greater and the same diameter or bigger. Okay, so if we pull a 1 3/4, 200 foot, we should probably pull another one or even a 300 foot line. We also have the ability to pull a 2.5 if conditions are greatly decreasing or declining, okay? So always be aware of that and what you're pulling for a backup line. Secondly, your engineer is really your third person on the line, so they're responsible from the rig to the door. So them sitting at the door and pushing hose inside really helps the advancement because the backup person doesn't have to do so much work, okay? So now we have 3 people that's helping push lines inside of a building. Secondly, a lot of people are focusing on throwing ladders right away. That is more so the ladder or the tower's job, okay? We need to make sure that the engine is focused on water as a supplementary task. Once they have water flowing and lines off, then we can start doing the accessory tasks. Maybe after we have tools, fans, and other equipment already at the door. Ladders can be other people's responsibility. That's why we have a truck company, okay? So really focus on getting the hose off, getting water to it, setting our pressure correctly, and then also helping that line be pushed into the building, because that's going to make everything better.